We're first starting off with the Skin Perfecting Blurring Tint. This product is meant to work as a primer or a tinted moisturizer. The coverage should be sheer and add a natural finish that blurs and smooths skin's texture. This foundation comes in 12 shades and retails for $34 on the Jaclyn Hill website or Ulta and contains 30 milliliters or 1 ounce. So Jaclyn Hill recommends using your fingers to apply this and blurring it out even more with a beauty sponge, so that's what I'm doing here. First impression, I don't like the way it feels. It's a bit tacky and stiff feeling. It also takes a while to blend it out because of that tacky feel, but I do like the way it looks. The color is too light, but I noticed it deepened up a little bit. I am wearing shade medium, so I'd probably have to do shade tan. However, I am usually a shade medium in many other foundations. So one pump, as you can see, is extremely sheer. It does look nice, but it almost just looks like I applied really good skincare. I took this iPhone photo in front of a window. As you can see, it hardly looks like I have anything on, but my pores are less visible and my skin tone is a little more evened out. Now I'm going in with a second layer or a second pump. It definitely becomes more tacky and harder to blend with two pumps. I actually really like the way this foundation looks. It makes your skin look really hydrated and healthy. So I do agree with the title, Skin Perfecting Blurring Tint. I think that was a perfect name for this product because it truly is doing that. Apart from choosing the wrong color, I really like it. I definitely prefer doing two layers because one isn't noticeable enough. Now I'm going to use a brush on the other side of my face. I highly recommend using a brush to apply this. First of all, since the texture doesn't feel very nice, you won't have to feel it on your fingers and it won't be difficult to blend. And with the brush, I honestly feel like it looks a lot nicer. Let me know in the comments what you think. The brush side looks a lot more blended. I don't know if it's the exact brush I'm using because the Merit Complexion brush is really good. Also, I only needed one pump with the brush. It was honestly a huge difference between using my fingers and using a good complexion brush. I'm going to show you some indoor and outdoor photos I took with my iPhone. Naturally, the lighting should be different between indoor and outdoor, but I also feel like it's giving me different opinions on whether the fingertip looks better or the brush looks better. In terms of how it feels on my face, I can definitely feel it. It isn't too heavy, but you can definitely feel something. I like how I got a shade too light, but after completing my entire face, it's not as noticeable anymore. I was contemplating on exchanging this for a deeper shade, but perhaps I don't need to anymore. Now we're moving on to the concealer. This is the Faux Filler Perfecting Concealer, and it retails for $26 and contains 6.7 milliliters or 0.23 ounces. It comes in 32 different shades. This concealer is supposed to be lightweight and buildable with medium to full coverage. It has a matte finish and should blur and brighten the under eyes. I'm using a beauty blender on one side, and then I'm going to use a brush on the other side, and again the product looks better with a brush. On my camera you can see that the under eye looks brighter and better with the brush. I forgot that this was a matte concealer, and as you can see it sets extremely fast, so I would recommend to apply the concealer and immediately blend it out afterwards. I decided to go in with a second layer because it didn't look bright enough and the coverage seemed too light. I didn't realize that it could be because the concealer isn't sitting on my skin or the beauty sponge is absorbing it, not sure, but the coverage definitely seemed too light. I really wanted this concealer to work, so I even went in with a third layer and I used the brush this time. I've actually never applied more than one layer of concealer on my under eye. My nose got a little patchy, and then later in the day I noticed that my forehead got a little patchy. I believe it just got patchy just because I let it set too quickly, or I waited too long to blend it out. So I definitely recommend quickly blending it out. But the parts that did get patchy, I was able to go in with a beauty blender are a beauty sponge, and I was able to get rid of the patchiness, especially underneath my eye. So this concealer did not enhance my under eye wrinkles, which is good. I wouldn't say it's blurring. It's honestly just a matte dry look. If you have dry skin, I would not recommend this. It's almost comparable to the e.l.f. matte camo concealer. Overall, while this is a nice concealer, I wouldn't recommend it. I do love the beautiful packaging, but it's not better than NARS or even my Rare Beauty concealer. I'm also not a huge fan of matte concealers because of how drying they are. It also didn't brighten up my under eye area as much as I was expecting it to. I am a medium in the foundation and chose light medium in the concealer, so perhaps it's better to choose 2 shades lighter to get that brightening effect. I'll still continue to use this concealer, but I wouldn't repurchase it. So here I am about 4 hours later. So far in terms of the appearance, I am still liking it. Ooh, I see a little smudge up here. Is that a smudge? I don't know what's going on over there. Maybe actually that's where I put the bronzer. As you can see, we are getting a little bit shiny. When I look in the mirror, all the mirrors in my apartment, it looks good to me, but this shininess, I definitely do feel it around the nose area. Ironically, when you touch it, it doesn't feel super oily. There's like a little bit of oiliness, but it definitely feels oily. It's not the worst feeling. I'm not that bothered by it, but of course, I would prefer it to not feel oily whatsoever. So far, I am liking it, even though I do look pretty shiny here. Maybe I'll back up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like in person and in the mirror, it doesn't look too bad. So overall, I am liking it. And it also looks really good on my iPhone. Apart from the oiliness, the feeling, that is like my only con. And besides that, I happen to really like it. I do think it wears down nicely. I was a lot happier with it like 30 minutes after I applied it. Like for sure, I was a lot happier with the way that it looked. As far as the concealer goes, let's check out the concealer because I haven't even really looked at the concealer too much. Yeah, the concealer, honestly, like the concealer is good. It's not settling into my fine lines. The only con that I have with the concealer is it being so drying. If you start off doing your makeup and your skin is oily, then it could be okay. I personally like to use hydrating concealers because I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I just don't feel comfortable putting matte underneath my eyes because you always want that to be really hydrated. I don't know if that logic applies to under eye concealer, but that's why I just prefer hydrating concealers. But besides that, I think it's a really good concealer. I am going to return this one and get a shade lighter because as you can see, there's like no brightening whatsoever. It does hide the dark circles, but it just feels like it's my same skin tone, and that's not what I'm looking for in an under eye concealer. I'm looking for highlights. So I am going to go ahead and get the lighter one. Also, as you can see, the color kind of deepened up a little bit, which I like. Yeah, I think I might stick with it. Also, as far as pore control goes, you could see for yourself, this is pretty identical to what it looks like in person. There's a little bit of like the pores you can see, but it is doing a good job of hiding them. It's also doing a good job of blurring the skin as well. Like I said, when I take pictures, it looks really great, and I could definitely see you just topping off this foundation with some powder, and it's gonna help kind of control that shine a little bit. So all in all, after 4 hours, I do really like it. I'm happy to have it. I don't think I'll gravitate towards it too much just because of that oiliness factor. I have other foundations that look a little bit better, so definitely I don't think this is something I feel like I would have to repurchase, but it is really nice. If you're looking for a foundation that is more of like a tinted moisturizer type product. So I will check back in towards the end of the night and see how well this foundation holds up. Okay, it has been about 7 hours, and this is what we are looking at. So when I first came on camera, I looked really oily. So I went ahead and I wiped this part, and it kind of helped a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and like wipe this part because this is where I'm looking really shiny. There's just a lot, Yeah, whoa. The nose area especially is really oily. And as you can see, it kind of looks like some of the product is being removed around the nose area. This is a DSLR camera. It's like really up close and personal. When I look in all of my mirrors and when I use my cell phone, it honestly does not look bad. It's just this DSLR camera. It's kind of like you're looking at my face super up close and personal. So with that said, I still like the way this looks because on a normal day basis, people aren't going to be that up close to my face and I'm really going to be taking pictures with my iPhone. So in that case, I don't mind this foundation. But if I were to go out, you know, and have like an all day event and be taking pictures with like a nice camera, then I definitely wouldn't choose this foundation. It just made me look like too shiny. Also, yes, the oiliness, it does start to feel heavier as the day goes by. I didn't blot or anything. Normally I would do that. I also feel like if you were to set this with powder, you're not going to have much of an issue with oil because the oiliness is not like super, super strong. It's also not insanely uncomfortable. If it was, I probably would have already set it with powder by now, but it's definitely not my favorite foundation because of how oily it made me, and obviously because of how shiny it makes me. This is going to be a foundation that's going to be difficult to work with when I'm filming. Also, in case you are wondering, the nose area looks a little deeper toned. That's because I did put bronzer on my nose. It has nothing to do with like the foundation running off my nose or anything like that. So that is the skin tint. Overall, it's hard to rate the skin tint. I feel like I would rate it like a 7 out of 10. I feel like I rated a 7 out of 10 just because of the oiliness that I get with it. And also because of the texture, the way it feels on my skin. I had to go in with a brush. I still think the brush side looks better than the beauty sponge. There was no way I was able to just use my fingers alone. So that's kind of why I would knock it off. But I don't know. I like this foundation. I definitely wouldn't repurchase it, but I'm still going to use it. You know, I'm happy that I have it. Just there's a bunch of other better foundations out there. I do really love the packaging though, super cute. So I don't know, if anything, hopefully Jaclyn Hill can improve on this foundation. One, make the texture a lot nicer, not so sticky, and two, make it so that it doesn't make us an oil slick at the end of the day. And then, you know, it'd be really great. So yeah. Now in terms of the concealer, interesting enough, in terms of the concealer, I actually went on YouTube and I looked at other people's review of the concealer and the skin tint. It seems like it has a lot of bad reviews that I don't necessarily agree with because it makes it seem like this product is horrible. It's not. Well, at least the skin tint isn't. The concealer is a kind of a different story. So I've already shared my experience with the concealer. It remains to be true. I think the best thing this concealer did is that it definitely removed like any darkness around my under eye area. But definitely what people are saying about it being patchy, it's true. I wasn't able to capture the patchiness on one side of my eye. I tried using my phone and everything, but I just wasn't able to capture it. I was only able to see it like in my mirror. But it did leave me patchy on my forehead, on my nose, and on my under eye. And yeah, it did take some time. I had to use my beauty sponge and really work to blend it out. But I was able to remove the patchiness, so that's one thing. I do recommend applying it with a brush first because I felt like with the brush, I was able to blend it so much more quickly. I'm still going to use it, but also I noticed that it doesn't show up as strongly underneath my eyes. I don't know what it is. It almost looks like I don't have it on. You saw me go in with like 3 layers and it didn't really hit me that maybe just the product isn't sitting well on my skin. It didn't hit me, but now I'm realizing that maybe that is true. So I was gonna go in and get like a lighter shade, but now I'm worried that even if I get a lighter shade, I'm still gonna get this like insanely light coverage and it's still not going to really brighten up my under eyes. I don't know. So there's a very strong chance that I might be returning this concealer because I didn't buy concealer for it to not look like I have concealer underneath my eyes. And also it's a lot more difficult to work with. And I feel more comfortable, like I said in the beginning, wearing hydrating concealer. So I don't know. I'm going to play around with this concealer a little bit more. Also, Manny suggested or made a really good suggestion to use this as an eyeshadow primer. So I'm definitely gonna try that before I think about returning it. I'm gonna watch a few more videos to see like if I get a lighter shade, will it actually brighten up the under eyes? If I get a lighter shade and it truly does brighten up my under eyes, I will exchange it for a lighter one. It's like not a horrible concealer because it didn't settle into my fine lines. It did help to remove some of the darkness underneath my eyes. So it's not horrible. I just think the patchiness is a little bit difficult to work with. So that is going to be it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and also make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more content like this. Also, if you are interested in any other Jaclyn Cosmetic videos of mine, I'll leave them in the description box down below. And yeah, that'll be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in another one. Bye!
You could be my honeybee. Can you give me something sweet? This thing you have could give me scars.